Julio was 17 and had been in detention for 11 months waiting for a trial. He hadn't seen his family since he was arrested. The police picked up Julio one day. They believed he'd been in a fight where a boy was killed. The police took Julio to an abandoned housing development. They put a plastic bag over his head and they tortured him. He thought he was going to die. He confessed to the police so that the beatings would stop. A few days later, he was booked and sent to the Juvenile Detention Center. We received a list of teenagers who hadn't been visited by their parents as part of our family reunification project. We contacted Julio's mother and told her that we would take her from her small village 4 hours outside of the city to visit her son. Julio is the youngest of 5 siblings. His mother picks chili peppers in the field and his stepfather sells frozen food. Their modest income, around $15 per day, isn't enough to afford the bus ticket into the city to visit Julio. As we entered the detention center, Julio's mother fell silent. She clung to the care package that we had given her for Julio. Her leg didn't stop moving as we waited for the guard to bring Julio out. And then, walking down the chain-linked fence-lined walkway, came a tall, thin boy. Today was the first time that Julio had hugged his mother since his heroin arrest. You would expect that he would appear dejected, but today, seeing his mother, his striking green eyes lit up. "I'm so happy to see her," Julio said. "I'm happy when I'm with her." And she was happy too. "My son is innocent," she said. The other boys arrested have all stated that Julio was not involved, but she was nervous. Julio's trial was in 2 weeks, and their lawyer had said that we're going for all or nothing. Her voice bordered on panic. When we asked Julio what he would wish for right now, without hesitation, he blurted out, "All I want is to be home with my family." He and his mother hardly let go of each other. A few weeks later, Julio was found not guilty and returned home. Julio's story is part of our Every Child Has a Story documentary, sharing stories of teens in detention and their families. But Every Child Has a Story is not just about sharing the stories. It's also about responding. Juvenile justice advocates has to respond, I have to respond, and you have to respond. One grandmother that we contacted for the Family Reunification Project could not come for a visit because her grandson was being punished and had his visitation revoked. She wouldn't be allowed to visit him for another month. She asked us over the phone, "Will you do this again?" Earlier this year, we had some meetings with the court, and some of our board members joined us, including Sherwood McInnes. Once again, we took care packages to the Juvenile Detention Center in Chihuahua, soap, shampoo, towels, and underwear for teens who had recently been arrested. The guards brought us into a little auditorium that they had in the prison. A few minutes later, a group of 20 children were marched into the auditorium, children who needed these care packages. I noticed one boy in particular, Pablo, who our board member Sherwood was talking with, and I actually heard them speaking English. Pablo had only been in detention for a few weeks. He was 17 years old, but he was scared. Pablo had moved away from home to live with his grandparents in North Carolina when he was 5 years old. For 10 years he lived in the United States. He went to school, he had a part-time job, he had a normal life. Then his father was killed in Mexico. The drug cartel was after a rival cartel member who drove a blue Ford F-150. Pablo's father also drove a blue Ford F-150. He was shot and killed. Eventually, Pablo's mother asked him to come back to Mexico and help her, so he did. But Pablo's mother lived in a bad neighborhood in Ciudad Juarez. Pablo didn't like it there. Life wasn't easy in Mexico for Pablo. His part-time job worked in less than 2 weeks than he had earned in 1 day in the United States. And he didn't have the paperwork from his U.S. school, so the Mexican public school system would not give him credit. He had to start over. Pablo finished elementary school in 3 months, and he was nearly caught up. Then, one day, the police came to his door. They arrested Pablo and threw him into the patrol car before his mother could do anything. And it didn't make any sense. Pablo had been identified in a car theft. When we met in detention, he'd only been there for a week. As a new arrival, Pablo was separated in detention, but he was terrified because in a few days he would be moved to the general population. Teens convicted of rape, murder, gang, or cartel involvement are all mixed together with those who are awaiting trial for lesser offenses. In the Ciudad Juarez Juvenile Detention Center, the guards and wardens come from the adult prison, and it's run like an adult prison. For a few hundred pesos, you can get a cell phone smuggled in, or drugs, or the guards will turn away while you beat up a rival gang member. 3/4 of teens in Mexican detention report being abused or beaten by the officials. As we left, Pablo asked, "Will I be okay?" Sherwood was visibly shaken by his encounter with Pablo. We left, but 2 days later I was going through the cell blocks in the prison, and there was Pablo. With a cellmate, the two of them were in a 6x6 cell. One bed. Pablo had pushed his mattress under the one bed and only pulled it out at night. He looked terrified again. "Help me," his eyes cried out. He told me that they sit in this cell all day long and only leave for meals or to play soccer twice a week. "Is there anything I can do, anything that you need?" I asked. "Yes," he said. "My visiting days have changed and my mother doesn't know the new days. Can you please call her?" So I took down Pablo's mother's phone and promised to call as soon as we left. A few hours later, we left the prison. I called Pablo's mother to tell her about the visiting day changes. "Thank you," she said. And she proceeded to tell me how Pablo was innocent and that she is fighting for him to get out. It was June. School would start in August. "Will he get out in time to start school?" she asked me. Teens in Chihuahua spend an average of 5 months in detention awaiting trial. But we know that even a short period of time in detention doubles the probability of dropping out of school. It also doubles their chances of depression and suicide for teens in detention. Pablo was recently released. I got to speak with him, his mother, and his stepfather in their home, and hear about how this experience has affected their whole family. Pablo's back in school, working again, but the effect of this experience will stay with him for the rest of his life. Pablo's story demands a response. Every child's story demands a response from us. Our response is to fight for these children and to work with the local governments to make sustainable changes. We fight so that children like Pablo don't have to spend 5 months in detention waiting for a trial. 30 days is the maximum. We fight so that children like Pablo who have a parent, go to school, have no record, can be on release while awaiting trial and not in detention. We fight so that juvenile detention is less traumatic, so that children like Pablo aren't in their cells for 20 hours per day, sleeping on top of each other, urinating in plastic bottles, paying guards to have fights. The Chihuahua courts have agreed to work with us to get trial wait times down to 30 days on average, to implement better screening instruments, and to improve conditions in detention. Over the next 2 years, we will be implementing these changes. This is our response to these stories. But we need you to respond as well. Our project costs about $80,000 or $250 per child. Our current funding gap is $10,000 for 2016. When a grandmother asks, "Will I see my grandchild again?" When a mother asks, "Will my child be able to return to school?" Or when a teenager asks, "Will I be okay?" We need to be able to respond yes to each of these questions. We must respond yes. What will your response be? I want to thank all of our supporters from this past year. We've greatly expanded our impact in Mexico, and it's all thanks to you. Consider a year-end contribution to help us fill our $10,000 gap. And have a happy holidays and a happy new year.